Recording.
Recording in progress. Oh, leave. I can't be. The government can't. Catch me.
All right. And
You're like, yeah, it's so funny. Anyway.
Speed.
What? Why are you so giggly, Aaron?
I was thinking, hang on. Oh, sorry. Audio rolling. Speed. Fuck. Hang on. Audio rolling. Speed. Marker.
Both times. You just meant speed marker. Not even give me. And I'm like, oh,
sorry. Hey, all right.
No,
we'll
you're
go
good.
one more time. Well, oh shit. Hang on.
We're doing it.
Okay.
This is our theater exercise.
Oh shit. Let me say.
Fuck! It's all falling apart.
Okay.
Damn it.
Audio rolling again. Speed. Marker. Nice.
It's close. Hey everybody.
How to do?
Welcome back. How to do? We're back with another one today, and this one. Hey, we don't talk about that. Oh, sorry. We are not on his side. Anyway, we came back with another one today. We had a plan, and we still plan on doing an episode that we had in mind, but it'll probably be a little later down the road. So for now, we wanted to kind of like veer off of our beaten path of like comics and movies and all this stuff, and we actually wanted to talk about theater for a little bit. We're both very theater-centered people. We've been doing it for a while. And especially since the pandemic has started, like I feel personally, I've been more like theater because I miss it so much. So I'm very excited to like be able to talk about theater and arts again on this episode.
No, for sure. And that was something we were talking about before we started was that we went to college together, and we've worked on like. Well, we never worked on anything in college together other than like side projects within.
Yeah, I was about to say.
But we'll get into that later. But like we've never actually sat down and talked about like our different like upbringing with like what's turned us on to theater and like what started the what lit the flame, like what started that pilot light.
Yeah.
So it's going to be really interesting just to kind of you're going to get just a very candid response and discussion from a very raw
rated R
NC-17 but no, just a very very candid response from each of us as far as just going through this whole, I don't want to say deconstruction, that's not the correct word at all, but it's the just the path of which we've taken to get here.
Yeah, us expounding on our journey and actually like connecting on that level.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, before we get into that, how's your week been? What you been up to?
It's been good. We are currently planning to go to my brother's house to celebrate both my dad and his father-in-law's birthday because they have the same birthday, which is very odd. It's very weird. Which
Not
their birthday,
weird, but weird.
Yeah, which I mean, it's odd because my brother and sister-in-law got married, and their dads had the same birthday. Which there are other family members that have the same birthdays between the two, so it's very cool. But yeah, their birthday's on the 15th, and so we're celebrating today. So that's gonna be fun. Other than that, nothing too much. I mean, just trying to get that motivation back to start like filming for like other social media platforms and just really trying to get my ducks in a row on where the future of it is going to take me. You know, like I do it for fun. Like fun is on the forefront, but it is also kind of looking at, like I feel good in what I've produced so far, and I would like to continue to do this because it is something that is very enjoyable to me, and which I'll kind of get into the, I guess, talk of that a little bit later as well. But yeah, that's been pretty much it. What about you?
I mean, just going through the motions. Been going back to work, and we've been prepping for our big Valentine's Day coming up, and then also in 2 weeks we got Margarita Day coming up.
Ooh.
So that's gonna be 2/22/22. That's gonna be a big day for our restaurant. So we're all trying to prepare for that. It's been getting busier and busier, so we're trying to get back to the usual. Where we've been like so slow for the past like month and a half. So now we're like starting to pick back up again, and so we're all like like I don't know what's happening. But that's been fine. And I actually, speaking of theater, someone at work recently was like, hey, I purchased 2 tickets late one night to go see Rent on tour for the 25th anniversary.
Ooh.
And she was like, and then I realized I don't have anyone that I know that would want to go with me. And she was like, but I know you love theater like I do. Would you want to go? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in 2 weeks, we're going to go to Chattanooga, and we're going to see it. And I'm really excited for that because I've never seen Rent live. I've only seen the movie and then like recordings and whatnot.
It's definitely a different experience. Like that's all I can say. Like it's great.
I'm gonna be geeking the whole time. Yeah. I'm gonna be sitting there like like just jamming. And then I'm gonna cry. It's gonna be a lot.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah, right. Because I remember seeing Phantom when it came to TPAC, and that's my favorite musical of all time. And even though it's just at a Tennessee theater, it's still a professional company and a professional tour. And so like all the glitz and glam was still there. And as soon as they revealed the chandelier and started rising it up, I like almost cried right then and there because I was just like, I'm seeing it. I was like, finally, I'm seeing Phantom live. And it was one of the best theater experiences I've ever had. So I'm excited for that. And then other than that, I've just been, like I said before, I'm still trying to work on some of my music. I'm starting a new song. Hopefully that'll be something. I want to start getting back into writing my musical because I had like a good kickoff for one of my scenes like a few weeks ago, and I was like excited to start it, but then I just like got busy with other stuff. So hopefully I can get back into that soon. But that's really all I've been up to. It's not been too exciting.
Hey, I mean, shoot, that sounds exciting to me. I mean, writing a new musical and everything.
That sounds pretty good to me. That's pretty
good. How you prepping for World War III, my dude?
Bro, tell me about it. What are you talking about? World War III. What are we talking about? Who? What World War III?
For real?
Yeah. No. What are you talking about?
Oh. Well, I mean, it's not official yet, but like,
wait, maybe, but still talk about it.
Yeah, I wasn't gonna like get into it. It was just a off joke. But yeah, just Russia, Ukraine, all that kind of stuff. I know they're listening right now, so like, I don't want to talk too much about it.
This is the target podcast that they're trying to get information from.
Yeah, exactly. But like
specifically this episode.
Good news I discovered yesterday. If there's a draft. We just missed the cut because it's 24 and under. Right.
Because my mom signed me up for the draft before.
Yeah, same. Like, you have to. Like, that's the thing.
Right. It's one of the, like, I remember her being like, well, you're in it. And I was like, huh? She was like, yeah, you got it. Also, it gives you a little extra money when you're going to college. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, here we go. So thank God, because I'm not any use except for like performing for our troops, I'd be drafted to be a performer.
Exactly. I mean, you know what? That's what a theater degree can do in the
in World War III.
World War III, exactly. Like
that's going to be the posters.
We used to have a loophole because of fucking flat feet. So thanks a lot, Dr. Scholes.
So thank you for fixing that. I guess. That's crazy.
Sorry, that was such a weird like side note.
I was literally about to be like, what a way to catch me off guard. Being like, hey, you ready for World War III? Yeah. What?
You know, I can't.
It's hard to talk when I don't have lines in front of me.
Yeah. So I kind of got into it in the last the podcast before last, where one of my favorite things was like imagining just things in the real world. And so as a kid, one of my favorite games to play was just simply pretend. Like that was it. Like me and my brother and my cousins, we would all get into pretty much the same stuff because we all grew up really close together. And so whenever one of us got into Harry Potter, we all got into Harry Potter. If one of us got into Spider-Man or just any superhero, we all got into the superheroes. And so we would get into the backyard and we would assign roles, and we'd either act out our own stories or we would act out parts from the movie. We'd never do the whole movie, just like our favorite parts of it. And right. That is my earliest memory of acting, I would say. And so kind of growing up, you kind of grow out of like playing pretend and stuff like that. There's a period where that just kind of goes away. And in middle school, middle school is the time where you're really trying to find your niche. You're trying to find like you're setting the groundwork, the foundation of who you're going to carry yourself to be like into high school and later on, which is a very heavy thing just because, you know, like puberty and shit, like you're trying to really find out who you are. And my brother was really big into sports. I was never really a sports guy. I tried band. I liked band. It just did not fulfill this thing in me, you know? And I ended up just not really liking the band director, and I was just like, there's just something missing. Well, the middle school that I was at had just separated from the high schools. Like it was a middle school and high school, and then they built another building for the high school. Oh. Okay. And so with that, they took the theater program with the high school. So a teacher, right? I had no interest in it at that point, but a teacher at the middle school decided, okay, well, they have a theater program, so let's start a theater program here. Okay. And so they began the theater program at the middle school, and they started holding auditions for their first play ever. And I remember, I don't know what it was in me. I was a very shy kid. I didn't like putting myself out there at all.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it was that struck in me, but I saw the audition notice on like a bulletin board, and it was the best little Christmas pageant ever, was the first show. And I was like, you know what? I kind of want to do it. I don't know. To this day, I don't know what it was in me that sparked, hey, I want to do this, because that was just so out of character for me. And so I came home and I was like, hey, so I think I want to go back to school later on tonight at 6 to audition for the show. And my parents were like, oh, okay, yeah, for sure.
Sure.
And I remember talking to the teacher there, and I said, hey, I don't really want lines. I told him I didn't want lines at all. And before the audition, I was like, so I'd like to maybe just have like a background part, or like maybe just not anything like that. And he said, okay, yeah, that's fine. I don't want to. He was very understanding.
Aaron went in and said, hi, I'd like to audition. And they said, okay, here are your sides. Here's the music. I'd like a tree.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
The opposite of what most people will go in to say.
Literally the exact opposite of people that audition.
But, so yeah, I did that. I did my audition, and then the next day, I remember the director came up to me and said, hey, so we didn't have enough people come out. Well, I got cast as a fireman in the show. And I had a line, and I was so pissed because I had a line. And it was fire. And I had to yell it.
And that's it.
When you're an introvert and so shy, and one, you didn't want lines in the first place, and now you have to scream at the top of your lungs, I was pissed, livid.
I don't want to be perceived on this stage, Margaret. Okay?
And so I did that, and like the reading that we did the first one, and then he came up to me the next day. It was like, hey, so we didn't have enough people. I could not cast for one of these lead characters. Do you want to do it? And I'm like, can I think about it and tell you tomorrow? And he's like, yeah, sure. So I come home, kind of go through pros and cons with my folks, and I was laying in bed that night, and I remember being like, I want to do it. Like, it was such a weird switch. It was so, especially going in with the vibe of not wanting to speak at all, and now I'm just like, I want to do it.
Yeah.
And
it's sort of like the hero moment. Like, not saying, I mean, you know, in your own right, they were like, hey, the spot needs to be filled. Here's an opportunity. Do you want to do it? And something in your brain was like, I could. your brain was like, I mean, if they need me, then I guess I can do it. And I love that your body, something changed in you. That was like the moment, you think?
I think so, because I told him the next day, and I said I'll do it, and then I learned the lines, and I could just feel myself growing into just a totally different person, like during that whole thing, and being able to speak in front of people, and that was it. You know, that was the moment that. Which, sorry to kind of, I'm not gonna say drag on with that, but that's just the quick lowdown of like just the background of that first moment of that's the light bulb. That was the light bulb that went off and started this whole thing.
Yeah. I love that, dude. That's especially for best Christmas pageant ever.
Right.
That's a show that gets done a lot for sure, and especially in that age group. So that's really great.
Absolutely. What about you? What was where'd that flame start?
Well, so I talked a little bit about it during our mask review, which be on the lookout for that. That's going to be up soon on our YouTube channel. But it was like, I know when I was younger, so my mom was divorced and she still had to go to her job, and so for a few years I had a babysitter, and it was a older woman that lived across the street, and she also babysat like her nephew and like other children that she like either family or friends or whatever. And so I like grew up around those friends and had those kids to play with, and there was one kid, Tyler, who was like the off the wall bonkers funny kid of the group. And he was a little older, and so I like looked up to him a little bit, and he was the one that was like a cinephile. Like, he loved movies. And I remember when we started like becoming friends and hanging out, one of his favorite movies was The Matrix. And he showed me The Matrix, and I was probably like, I was young. I was probably like, I want to say like 7, like around that area, and I didn't quite get what was going on, but the way that I connected to it was we would watch it, and then he'd be like, all right, we're gonna do this scene in the backyard, let's go. And like we would like reenact the like Agent Smith and Neo like train scene, like we like hours, days of just like doing Matrix stuff. And I was like, this is so fun, this is really cool. And then there was one day where I got invited over to his house, and we were hanging out, and he was watching The Mask, and I remember seeing it and watching Jim Carrey and just being like, that is so fun. I would love to be that guy one day. And I think that was the first little spark of it. And then I was like, you know, I would watch Harry Potter, and I'd love Harry Potter, and I would like quote it all the time and like do the reenactments. And then I got into Star Wars, and I started doing reenactments of those movies. You are the chosen one. All that, you know.
Classic.
And then like the one scene I would do all the time was the Orlando Bloom and Johnny Depp sword fight scene in Pirates of the Caribbean, the first one, when they're in the blacksmith shop. I would reenact that so many times. I had the choreography down and the lines down.
A professional.
I was truly a professional in my craft. And then it was around age, I think like 10 or 11 is when I started thinking about doing theater. And my mom was very encouraging. She was very behind it, always was. And I auditioned for my first show, The Sound of Music, at a theater in Bristol, Tennessee, I think, or Bristol, Virginia, one of those. Anyway, and I got the part of Kurt Von Trapp, one of the kids, and it was like, it was crazy. I've never been so nervous.
Yeah, I mean, a musical to start off with is a lot.
And the sound of music.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And I just remember I started going and I felt very timid because I was around all these people I didn't know and a lot of adults that I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And there was that inside panic of like, okay, I gotta like work with these people. I gotta step it up. And I just remember like having the best time in that production and making all these friends with the cast, and we all had a good time. And like, yeah, there were some stressful moments, and I learned that, like being a newbie in this theater scene. But by the end of it, it all was over, and I just remember like being like, we finished a show, and I don't want it to end. And I think that was like the true moment of like, I need to keep doing this. This is really fun. And then like with school, I did that. And then I auditioned for like another play at another theater company and it was Christmas Carol. I got into that. Nice. And then I did Sound of Music again at a different theater company and got the same part. That was fun.
Hey, I mean, you're ready though. So
I had the resume for it. The 2 roles. And I was like, okay, that's enough Sound of Music for now. And then I was like it was middle school right around all this time. And the middle school theater, I like was starting to catch wind of. Like I never thought about theater at school. Mm-hmm. And it was like 7th grade that I think that we were doing some play that was like a school play of like it's all the fables and stories.
Just a generic sort of.
Yeah, it's okay. Like it was like a spoof of like all these different like storybook characters running around causing a muck, and I was a
Shrek.
Yeah, it was a Shrek. It was basically off-brand Shrek, and I remember I was cast as the one of the cops. There was like 2 cops that were like in charge of chasing around all these people, and I that was the first moment where I was like, oh, I'm comedic relief actor.
There it is. Like
yeah, because I remember I was like, oh, I'm a cop and I'm like heavyset middle schooler. And I was like, oh, okay, I know what to do. And I remember this scene, it was like towards the end, we had been running around all day, and I run out with my partner. I'm like, we need to... Oh, God. And I was like on stage, just being like, where did they go? And that was definitely the moment where I was like, I need to do comedic stuff for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
And that's what set me into auditioning for musical theater in high school. They had a musical theater department and a theater department. They were separate. And it was when I got into musical theater that I was like, oh, musical theater is my passion, like specifically. And ever since then, it was like... And then being in governor school helped me decide that like that's what I want my job to be, because I like to be an artsy person. I was dancing at the time. I do art and stuff, and I was just starting to learn about graphic design. But like high school is when I decided like this is my job. And thankfully, because I had no idea.
Right.
Before governor school, I was like, I don't know what I'm 15. I don't know.
I'm 15.
So I don't know. But dude, something about it. I just caught that bug, dude.
Yeah, and that's so awesome how it just kind of it just comes out of nowhere, and like the fact that you came in heavy and like you were at your school pretty much like, I mean, for your age, a seasoned actor. Like you had already worked for like 3 like outside theaters from a school program, and you're coming in and you're giving these comedic moments, and it's like you were the man. Like just from sounding about it, like I would have been like, man, that guy's awesome.
I was living, dude. It was it was such a fun experience. I remember and it was like so pure because at that time, you know, you're young and you're learning about it, and you're not like, oh, I need to build my resume. I gotta make sure that I'm getting parts that pay well and blah. Like, you're not thinking about all. You're just like, I'm doing this because it's fun, mainly. And like, we're still doing it because we're fun, but I just miss the time when you like your brain didn't have to think about that the other stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where it's just something to be very careful of, as far as not putting that pressure on yourself through it, because you don't want to. Because the whole reason we do this in the first place is because of that fun aspect that, like you were saying, and if we begin to not do it for the fun of it, then we kind of lose that light of why we were doing it at all, you know?
Bro, yeah. No, there's so many friends of mine that in college, just the only thing they would really say about advice on theater and like what jobs to do and like how to advance, they would just be like, the ones that pay you. And it's like, oh, but what about this like passion project and they're like, that's not going to help you, because the ones that pay you is how you get far, and that's what people notice. And I'm like, well, then why? I'm not doing it. Like, obviously, I'm not doing it for the money.
Right.
Because acting's not for the money.
No,
eventually, you could earn money, obviously, but that's not why people start it. And so it just really bogged me down for a little bit, because that's all I was hearing about. And I was like, no, I want to do this because I want to do it. I just like acting.
Yeah.
You know? And that's a bigger conversation I had with myself, as like, especially after graduating, because I was like, I know this is my career and I need to start making strides, but like, what do I choose and why?
Right.
It always comes down to that. So I definitely try to keep in the back of my mind, it needs to be fun more than anything. Like, you need to enjoy doing it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because there's plenty of people, like, there's a person at work that I recently talked to. He's so funny, and his voices he can do, like, he naturally has an accent that's like a little Southern.
Yeah.
And then when he exaggerates, he like puts a little on it, puts a little spice. And the other day I just looked at him and I was like, have you ever thought about voice acting? And he laughed and he was like, pfft. And I was like, no, have you thought about voice acting? Because the charisma he can bring, just of us having a one-off, not important conversation. I'm like, if you put that into a book, that would sell.
Oh, yeah.
Like an audio book or something like that, or a TV show. People that have an inclination or a want to like try it, try it. It doesn't have to go perfect, and by the end, if you don't like it, you don't like it.
Yeah.
But I think anyone that would want to try it should, just to see, because more often than not, you'll at least have fun, hopefully.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it also eliminates like that, I guess, stigma, because I don't know what it was like for you as you continued going through just like the process of getting to a point where you want to do it professionally. But there's definitely, as soon as you like tell somebody, oh, I'm studying acting, I want to be an actor, you can immediately feel the energy in them change to almost like, I don't want to go as drastic as saying pity, but sometimes that's what it feels like.
Yeah,
you know?
I was literally, the sound that came into my brain was like, oh.
Yeah.
It's like that feeling.
Yeah, especially like, I mean, where we're from, just the Southern Bible Belt of...
Yeah.
It just gets a lot of, I don't know, like I something significant I remember is being in school and taking driver's ed, and I was driving with, my driving partner was my best friend, still best friend to this day, who was also really big into theater. And the driving instructor was, just to help us relax, started getting into just shooting the shit while we're in the car. And he's like, okay, well, we were juniors at the time. And he goes, what are you guys going to do whenever you graduate? And we both were kind of like, oh, well, we're really into theater right now, and we want to pursue that in college and just see where it can take us, And I remember he just gave a scoff, and he looked at me and he said, well, that's the path you're going to go down. I want to make sure you know that Walmart's always hiring.
Fuck that guy.
Exactly,
all,
dude.
Fuck that guy.
You're a teacher, man. You're
a teacher. That's yes.
Yeah, and so I remember, and that honestly lit another fire under me for some reason. It was just
Good.
like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm gonna keep doing this, and you know what? If it goes bad, then I'll eat it. But if it goes good, then fuck you. That's
Mm-hmm. No,
and,
yeah.
And so that's just that's the general reaction you kind of get. It's getting better now, I guess. But if you didn't play sports, then your extracurricular just was not on anybody's radar. It was such a and that's just I think that's just a big more of an annoyance than a struggle, I would say.
It's more of an annoyance because you can, how dare you look at someone that has a dream and it's a feasible dream and that literally millions of people are doing it.
Yeah.
And be like, you're not going to make it.
Exactly.
Fuck you. What are you talking about? I'm in high school, I'm 16, and I have decades, hopefully, ahead of me. Ahead of me. You don't know what I'm going to be able to do. Yeah, dude. I remember, not in the same angry vein, but in the same vein of people not knowing if you will succeed or not.
Mm-hmm.
I remember for the longest time growing up, my grandfather, I lived half of the time with my parents, half the time with my grandparents. And I remember my grandfather, he used to be a carpenter, and he, growing up, would try to bring me to work sites and houses he was working on and try to show me the ropes and all this stuff. And as a younger kid, I was like, oh, this is stupid. I want a theater. And I know that hurt him a little bit because he it's his passion, and he was very for it. And so for a little bit, there was a period of time where I kept being like, I want to act and I want to draw and blah, blah, blah. And my grandparents being like, and have a job. They would always just be like, and secure your finances, which we're still working on, but that's not this conversation. But I remember there was a moment in during college that I was coming back to visit, and we were, I think it was for a Christmas, it was some kind of holiday, and we were talking in the living room, and I love my grandfather. He's my dad.
Yeah.
Just outright. And he just I remember him looking at me. I'm getting emotional thinking about it. I just remember him looking at me and just being like, son, I may not understand theater and acting and why you would want to do it, but if this is what you're going to do, then I want you to just go all in it, and I will support you in whatever you do. I just want to make sure that you are going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I am, and I appreciate that a lot. And he's always been by my side. They've always been supportive.
Yeah.
But to finally hear it said in that way, I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being behind me in this decision that I'm making. Ugh, wow. See, theater does something.
Yeah, that affirmation is just knowing that you're going to do what you want to do regardless, but that affirmation of those that you love and that you look up to and respect, them giving you that support is so important. There are a lot of people who don't have that support, and just being fortunate enough to be able to have that at least, you know what I mean? That's just that's such a cool thing. That's a real, and I'm glad you were able to have that moment with him.
And there's a difference, what you were saying too. There's a difference between someone saying, I don't get what you're doing, so stop it because you need to do something that makes more sense. And I don't understand what you're doing, but I support you and keep doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like eventually I'll figure it out. There's a difference between these two mindsets, and I think that's the importance of people out there that need to support. Like, here's a reminder: support art, support theater, support your friends.
Without art, you would have nothing.
Literally, what would you be watching on a black box in your living room? Puppets from your family in the candlelight? We've moved on from that.
Yeah. Electricity.
We're not pilgrims. Anyway. No, so a question I wanted to ask you, because we've never really talked about it. So we both graduated high school and then went into college being like theater.
Yeah.
What was it like for you going to, what college did you go to first?
So I went to community college first, before going to university, because, before I start, I want to make sure you have your full question now before I begin.
So what was like, for me, it was definitely like a drastic change going from high school theater into college theater, especially at our undergrad.
Right.
But what was it like for you going from high school theater to your community college? And then going from that to our undergraduate?
Yeah. So I graduated high school, and because my high school was so small, I wanted to... Part of me was like, let me just dive into university and just start head on at this undergrad school. But then the other part was like, because my high school was so small, I might want to start off with community college and then just transfer to university after 2 years. Okay. Which I wouldn't trade what I chose to do for anything. But it is kind of like, knowing now what I know now is like, I wonder what it would have been like if I did just kind of dive in. But
right.
But no, I am very glad I went to community college first, just because I think that it just was not as big of culture shock as I would have experienced. But honestly, community college theater programs, I'm sure it's a case-by-case basis, but going even deeper in the South, and you get more people that have your focus, meaning in high school, you're in the theater program, but some people are doing like FFAs, some people are playing sports, some people are doing other things, and so this is a pastime for them, whereas for some people it's a serious thing for them, you know, and everybody takes it seriously in their own right, but you know what I mean. It's just not their focus.
I remember the day that it clicked in my brain. I was like, wait, we're not all in high school theater class because we want to do this for the rest of our lives? This is a hobby for you?
Yeah.
I like remember that moment of being like, why would you not pursue this after high school? Like, you know, I thought that was really funny. Anyway.
You froze for a second.
Am I here? Am I back?
You're back. You're back.
God damn it. Anyway.
Sorry, the last thing I heard you say was like, we're not all here, and then that was...
We're not all here because we want to do this for the rest of our lives? Like, this is a hobby for you? That's what I was like, that was a crazy thought to have. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah, and so going into community college, here at least you had sort of more or less the same thing. You had a few people that were in there for the focus of it, but honestly... And the instructor and the director, they were fully into it. Like, of course.
Good.
But they were also working with what they had. And so there were like 5 or 6 of us that were really into theater. And then the rest were into, I'm trying to think of clubs that community colleges have, just other things.
Right. Like and pottery club, cave club.
Exactly.
Scoop. Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. So you still kind of had that sort of struggle with people not really being into it because it's not their focus.
Mm-hmm.
So that transition was because I took a year off with after high school as well. Like I went into college, but I was like, I'm gonna because my original plan was to study theater and education to be a teacher.
Right.
And so to kind of get adjusted, I took that first semester. I was like, I'm not going to audition for anything. And it hurt. It hurt so bad. But then the next semester, I auditioned for. I was actually doing two things at the time. I did Once Upon a Mattress.
Nice.
Which a hilarious musical. I want to revisit that again someday. It's so good.
Yeah. It's a good one.
And I was also doing The Foreigner at the same time.
Oh yeah.
At a different theater. And
the classic Foreigner.
It's so good. It's so good. I can never show the poster for that show in any of my videos because of the design choice they did on it, which I'll explain later. But anyway, and so kind of getting into that, I had more or less the same sort of vibe as high school. Just it felt like just another step. Now transferring to university, that came with a few challenges. One, I was a junior coming in. It wasn't like I was a freshman starting out. I was a junior. And so the group that I was with, which you were included in that, had already been seasoned at this university level theater program for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's like, okay, now everybody that I'm coming in contact with in this building, this is our focus. Like, this is what we're all doing. This, I got to buckle down. Like, this was,
okay.
And I remember that first semester really, I didn't audition for anything in my first semester there. That was definitely an intimidation thing. Like, I had monologues prepared.
Fair.
Yeah.
We get intense sometimes about some of the stuff we do. So yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Right. And I remember going into the audition that night, and I had monologues prepared. Like, I had just done a Shakespeare show, so I had a Shakespearean monologue prepared. I had a contemporary prepared. As far as song, I didn't have a song. I think I was doing loopholes to try to get out of the musical part of it because, I would say I had like a wedding or something like that to go to.
Nice.
But I remember kind of seeing everybody in there. I walked out. I don't think I've ever said that to anybody before, but I walked out. I did. I didn't even...
Like, you showed up, you were ready, but then you, like, looked around, and then you were just like, nah.
I filled out the form. I went to go get in line, and I threw that form out on the way out. I did.
Buddy. Damn.
Dude, there were other factors that were just really weighing heavy on me at the time, but, like, that was just like, I can't do this right now, and it was such a... Yeah, so I ended up...
What? Fair. Like, I'm glad you came to that decision before, like, committing and then being like, no, I'll quit halfway through.
Right. No, I mean, that's another thing. I would never, like, if I'm on a production, I would never quit it halfway through. Unless it was, like, there was really bad shit going on. But, like, but yeah, so that was just it was one of those things where, like, I knocked myself down for a while, and then once I did tech for A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is a show you were in, and then after that I was like, all right, I got to do it. I just got to do it, and I auditioned for the next semester, and thankfully was able to have and get experience in that program. And so it finally felt like, okay, I have that bug again. Like, I have that fire. And so it definitely got dimmed a few times, but it was like, I'm in it. I'm back in it. Here we go. Let's fucking go.
Yeah. I'm glad that we were able to to rope you back in. No, yeah, even when I started, like you were saying, it was definitely a culture shock for sure, because going from high school theater where, like, students would just be like, I can't do that because I don't want to, and them just being like, all right, and then going to college and being like, if you want this, you're in it or you're out. Pick another major. Like, that was when I was like, oh, we definitely need to buckle down now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it was like I think just like from the first freshman meeting that we had, of seeing everyone there and hearing everyone talk, and definitely at that point when we arrived, the department had been transitioning, like, from old ways to new ways, and they were definitely trying to be more inclusive and trying to be, like, friendlier. just more welcoming.
Right.
And it definitely made an effect. Like, I got to talk to a lot of people. I was getting a lot of advice from some of the upperclassmen. The classes were great, but also intense. I think that was the biggest thing for me of switching from high school to college. I mean, obviously the classes are going to get harder, but like how specific they could be and how the difficulty could range vastly for different classes.
Right.
It just like, it was things that I didn't know that I could learn about or needed to learn about. That like, I didn't know that there was a whole class on like mentally preparing yourself for a scene.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's not even a thought as a high schooler. You're just like, I'm going on, I'm acting, saying lines, and I'm walking off. But then college is when they started being like, okay, let's mold you. And I that was the wake up call for like, oh, we're in college now. This is what this is gonna be. And then I think also the biggest thing for me was the amount of content that we were putting out. Like, it was like for all 4 of my years, all 2 of your years, it was like it varied each year of like what we wanted to put out. And we tried to do a lot one year, and then we stepped it back a little the next year, and then we added one more thing the next year, you know?
Yeah.
And I loved that. I was like, look at all of this opportunity that our students are getting. And like, even the chances to like write our own stuff, create our own stuff, direct our own stuff, produce our own stuff. Like, all of that was bonkers to me. Like, I didn't know how to do an audition properly when I entered college. You know what I'm saying?
I'm so glad you said that, because it's like
no one talks about it.
Exactly. Like,
no one prepped me. It was just like, hey, come sing a song for this amount of minutes. That's it. And then you get to college, and they're like, don't sing this, sing this, have this many measures, prepare it like this kind of paper. Like, it's so specific. I think that was the biggest challenge at first, was trying to like figure out an audition.
Yeah.
I remember one of the first auditions that I like bombed, or felt like I bombed, was the audition for Governor School back in 2016, 17. I guess it was early spring 2017. We were in the middle of doing Seussical at the school, and when it was time to audition for Governor School, I was like, oh, I have a whole libretto right here of music from this show that I should just use, and it's really fun. And I chose to do Monkeying Around, which is one of the best numbers of that whole show. And I get there, and the audition's happening. I go up to the piano, I open the book, and I'm like, I'd love to sing this song, please. And we'll start here, and we'll go to here. And the accompanist just went, do you have the music for it? And I was like, this is the music. What do you, like, it's the book. And he was like, this is the vocal book, not the accompaniment.
Oh, no.
And he goes, so I can play your notes with you as you sing them through it. And I went, okay. And so I just sang a song, basically a cappella, with a guy taking a finger and just going, bing, 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 like with me. And in my head, I was like, I'm a fucking chump. I was like, look at this kid coming up here and just acting a fool.
Oh,
and I
man.
left, and I was like, that was horrible. I never want to experience that again. Just king, 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 king. Thank you. Walks upstairs.
I could just imagine that probably felt like you did the whole musical just right there. That's probably the longest.
Yep.
Like, however, it's 16 like, bars, however many in your life.
You know how it feels to sit there during someone else's bad audition or someone else's bad performance.
Yeah.
And just having to be like, oh, God, we'll get through it. Let's just, just keep going. Just push through it. You'll be fine.
Just push on.
I hated it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's... God, I hate that. Like, not that you did a bad job. I'm just like... just that feeling.
Yeah.
Yes, I hate that you had to like go through that, and like that was just both the here's the music. No, it's not. What?
I was like, I had this locked down.
Yeah.
I was like, I brought it. I looked so professional with my book. Bing, ding, 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 ding. Anyway. Yeah.
You know what? And that's something that shapes you though. Like the bad experiences, more or less, are just as important as the good ones in certain aspects. You know what I mean? Like it's like it molds you. You like you said, it's like we're molding you at this point. So it
absolutely.
Yeah.
So sort of to transition from our experiences and whatnot. Of all the theater that you have done, we'll start off with this.
Okay.
Of all the theater that you've done, what's been your worst experience on a show, and what's been your best experience on a show?
So, in college, I was fortunate to be cast in one of my favorite comedic plays, which comedy, I'm like you, comedy that's my heart and soul. And like, it's so cool how, I'll run back to that in a second, but this point of how we've drawn inspiration from Jim Carrey, like how we fit that into this energy. It's like we're not trying to be Jim Carrey. It's just like we have this energy within us, and being able to see that played out. It's like, oh, this is normal. This is okay to do.
It's okay to be 1,000% all the time.
Right. And so getting into a comedic role is something that I always loved to do. And it's something I wasn't like, I did The Foreigner, but then like there was a couple of years where I didn't do anything comedic. It was all like dramatic, and which, I mean, honestly good, because I wanted to be able to hone that sort of vibe as well, being able to do heavy hitters like that. And so being able to have that breath of fresh air, getting back into something comedic, we did a production of Noises Off. And I remember seeing that show at, it was called ThesCon. It was like a thespian convention. And I saw it. I was like, I want to do this one day. I want to do it so bad.
It's a great show.
Right. And like my final year of college, I was able to do that. And I was like, oh, fuck yeah. And getting cast on with it was awesome. I loved the cast I was with. I was really comfortable with who we all were. I'd worked with.
It was a very solid cast, for sure.
I worked with one of the actors before a couple times, and we were solid. We had that togetherness. The other few were some I wanted to work with my whole time while I was there, and like we always kind of like popped off of each other, like when it came to just joking around in general. But being able to comedically play off each other was like, this is going to be good. I had high hopes and high expectations, I guess, with the experience, but just creative differences with directors and stuff just kind of didn't make it everything I wanted it to be. Whenever the director kind of holds your hand sometimes in a bad way, like won't let you be free, it kind of puts it dampens the experience a little bit. But you kind of work through it, and honestly, you kind of get in that mentality of like, I appreciate it. I'm going to listen because you have more experience than me. But at the same time, I want to put on my performance. I don't want to be your puppet, Correct. So it came to a point of like, you know what? I'm a senior. Fuck it. I'm just going to do it anyway. What are you going to do to me? Like, I mean, obviously they had amazing ideas to help it, because the thing about that show is flow. It has to have a good flow, and you have to hit those beats, those moments. But at the same time, you have to be able to give your performance to it.
There's a difference between directing a person and telling them what to do.
That part. Exactly.
Yes.
So, and we were all there was definitely a moment where we all kind of look at each other and it's like, this is bullshit. Like this uh
as one does.
yeah, and we collectively were like, we're fucking over this.
Sure.
And like senior year of college, you're kind of going through like an existential crisis of sorts, and so that on top of dreading going to a rehearsal of a show you love and people you love is like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Like I would get called to rehearsals I wasn't supposed to be at, and I commuted to school, so I was there
Oh,
all
yeah.
day, and so having to be there an additional 4 hours, 3 to 4 hours, was like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening?
Right.
But like one and safety as well, like there's a certain professor slash designer, again I'm not gonna get into, that did not have a
The
lot of safety in
qualifications.
mind
Right.
when it came to like staircases and stuff like that in the show, and
Mm-hmm.
the director didn't have a fight choreographer on the show as well, and even though we had one at the school, they didn't try to incorporate that into it until we said something, and was going to have our main actor go down these stairs, basically
Just
raw
tumble.
dogging these stairs,
Yeah.
without any sort of training. And it's like, why? What is
Not
happening?
okay.
It's not okay at all.
Not all right.
It's not all right. All right. Um, so ultimately, once the show started and the director was essentially gone, and we were
Mm-hmm.
just stage manager, actors, show,
Mm-hmm.
we were finally able to kind of be be free. Uh, those who know.
Those who know. If you know, you know.
We were able to finally be free and actually enjoy it and be able to play off of each other in the way that we wanted to. And so we did change some things just to make it feel better. We ultimately had a good experience, but just having someone hold your hand throughout that whole time was just like, damn, I wanted this to be a lot more than what it was, because of how much I set it up in my own mind. Maybe that's my fault. Maybe I
Yeah.
just set it up in my
Well,
own way.
yeah. But I
Uh,
mean, it's like hard not to if it's a performance you're passionate about.
yeah, and it's like one of my favorite shows, my favorite people I'm working with. This is going to be great, and for it to kind of be a struggling experience getting up there, um, put a little bit of a damper on it. But ultimately, I love doing it. The show was amazing. It got a bunch of laughs, and I felt fulfilled
It did.
at finally at the end of it.
I thought it was a hilarious show. When I saw it, it was incredible. For those that don't know the show, Noises Off is a
Oh yeah.
play about people putting on a play,
Mm-hmm.
and it just keeps not going well.
Right.
Things keep happening, and there's basically three acts. There's the first act of them rehearsing, and we see them like on the stage the way the play would be set up, but like we have the director who Aaron was playing coming in and out, directing the scene and the actors and all this stuff, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
The second act, the reason this is such a huge show is that the set turns around, or is supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
It's supposed to spin around, and then we see the back half of the stage as if we, the audience, are backstage. And we see in the second act all these bad things happening and things going awry, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then by the end of it, it's the performance. We're back around. We're seeing the stage for what it is, and it just goes to shit, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah. So, like, in a play like this, where there's a lot of physical comedy
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of things that are supposed to intentionally go wrong, it gives more a rise and more what's the word I'm looking for, more agency to be cautious, because that means things will and could definitely go wrong.
Right.
Like, you got to make sure that you're executing everything with precision and caution at all times. So for an experience of being in a show that requires that, and then having a director slash crew not be aware of that and not taking the time to be fully cautious and careful with the actors and the time, it's very frustrating.
Yeah.
It's like, of course that show's going to be a lot.
And the funny thing with that, just a quick like side story with this, it's not long at all, is there came a point there where each of us kind of became our characters in the show. Seriously, like you had the actor that was just doing her best, trying to just hold everything together. That was her. And like actors that some were like forgetting some lines, which is okay, it happens. But and then just kind of actually like bringing it on opening night, it's like, oh, cool, awesome. And then like there's a character in the show, Selsden, who he's older and he sometimes just goes somewhere, like you can't find him.
His mind just blanks. And
yeah, and the actor that we had playing Selsden, professional actor, wonderful. That was a big thing too, was working with him. And there was a night where I think he got overheated, and so he went to go cool off. And so there is a part in there where it's like, oh, where's Selsden? Where's Selsden? And we're backstage, and it's like, hey, where's Stanley?
Hey, where is he?
We're like, where?
No, but real quick.
Yeah, and our stagehands are like, oh, we have to go do this. It's like, I wasn't on for a little bit, and they're like, can you go see if you can find Stan? And I was like, his name's not Stan, I'm using Stan.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. And so I go out, I'm looking around, I look in the dressing room, I look in the green room, I look outside, I'm like, where the fuck is Stan? Because like he's on, and like just a few, and so I'm this director running around looking for this actor. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then I go back into the wing and I look, and he's just there. He was there the whole time. Like I don't know where he went and where he was paying attention to his part, but he was just out there. And I'm like, you know what? He's the professional, so
he's
I'm
there.
gone.
He got it. You know what? He's taking care of it.
Exactly.
That's so funny. It's a play going wrong where the play is going wrong.
It's a show within a show within a show. At this point, we've added 3 layers instead of the 2.
Breaks. Yeah.
But anyway, that was just ultimately, it was a good experience. I would love to do that show with you one day. That would be something.
Tell me about it.
Yeah. What about you?
I was about to say, one of my worst experiences. Well, let me see. It's between 2 of them. I'll just
tell them both.
briefly. Yeah. I was about to say, I'll briefly talk about both.
Yeah. If this needs to be a 2-parter, it can be a 2-parter. So
it could be a 2-parter.
Let it happen.
The first one is when I was in a production of West Side Story. And it was one of my first bigger shows that I've done in a minute. And I was really excited, and we were gung-ho, full swing, all the way in it. We were having a good time. At the start of the process is when we started getting a little iffy, because with West Side, there are certain parameters that you need to follow, namely race. Race plays a huge part in that show. I don't know if you know that. For those that don't know West Side Story. Speaking of which, the remake is out and is going to be on Disney soon. Everyone needs to watch it. It's phenomenal.
Oscar nominated,
Golden Globe winning. Or have the Golden Globes happened? Did they win? Yes.
I think so, yeah.
No.
Yeah. They happened last month, I believe.
Sweet. Anyway. So race is a huge part of the show, and a certain director that was in charge of it decided to, basically, the director sometimes had older views on theater. I think that's where a lot of the problems arise in theater nowadays, is certain people still have an older mindset of what it should be, and it's being stuck within this movement of us trying to progress and advance. And so in this specific instance, the director had an older mindset and was like, oh, we'll just cast the show and then figure it out what we're going to do after. And it ended up being so there's the Jets and the Sharks. The Jets are the white boys that hate the Sharks, who are the Latino boys in the show. And all of the characters associated with the Shark side, I'd say 80% of them were white. We had 2 black actors in there, and also 2, 3 Latino actors in there. And at one point, it was getting tossed around that the actors playing sharks should do spray tans. And that's when we said, no. That's when we said, nah. And that was an issue. But I mean, not giving it an excuse at all, but it's 2016,
right,
where it's like the start of the big movement of everyone coming out and being like, hey, these things aren't okay in theater.
Right.
So like we're still trying to catch up, and we cast it. We didn't spray tan. It was okay. We were just going through the motions, trying to do the show, and we were like, and then the show will be over and we'll be fine. And then we just like won't do that again. And then in the middle of that, in the middle of our process, there was a lot of behind the scenes drama happening. And by the end of it, we ended up losing our Bernardo and losing our anybody. And for those that know the show, Bernardo is a big character, and anybody is a pretty big character, a pretty big ensemble character. They have a lot of time on stage. The Bernardo dropped out 2 weeks from performance, from going up. Our anybody's dropped out 3 days before our performance. And for both roles, they had to call in people to bring on those roles. Yeah. So like kudos to the guy they brought in for Bernardo,
right? Because
he had to learn that, and he had to learn lines, choreography, music, all this stuff in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
All the fucking hats off to the actor that played anybody's. She came in and had to learn all that in 3 days and did a great job. And so just with all of that drama and all of the directing choices, and like again with you, there were some moments of hand holding, and right. I needed to be exactly like this, and it felt like there was not a lot of creative freedom in those moments. Mm-hmm. That was one of the most frustrating moments, especially like after not being in productions of that scale for a while and coming back into it. I was like, oh, this is the welcome back? Great. Let's see how this goes. So that was that. And then the other one, it was the moment that I was like, I am an actor. This is the story that all actors tell. I'm living my actor story. It was my first summer stock job, and my only that I've had thus far. We would go to conferences and audition for like these big cattle call auditions is what we call them, for like hundreds of people at one time trying to audition for shows. And I ended up getting cast in a summer stock position in Ohio. And it was through a company that did a war reenactment show. There's a lot of outdoor theaters in the mountain ranges that do war reenactment shows as their like big show, and then they do smaller shows on the side, like other plays and musicals that people would know. And so I got cast in it, and I arrive, and I was like, okay, yeah, here's it. We're in it. We're doing this thing. Come to find out, the actors are to be housed in different spaces because, you know, we're traveling from all across the region to come here. And the theater company is in charge of like securing those places and putting us in places. Of all 5 options, and they range from best to worst, of all 5 options that they had to live, I was placed in the worst option, which was literally a trailer with 4 other men just somewhere nearby. That's where we lived.
Cool.
We did not have good running water, and there was no AC. So,
right,
like that immediately. That was I was like, okay, I this is the like my 1 foot by 1 foot apartment in New York story. I was like, I'm really slumming it to be an actor and do my job. Whatever.
Yeah.
We were still getting paid, kind of, but it was just like, oh, this is great. I'm going to be in here for 3 months in this trailer.
3 months.
3 months. And I shit you not, we took baths, showers with jugs of water that we purchased at the Walmart for like the first few days because the water we had was like sulfury and brown. Shit you not. So that was fun. And then we're getting into the process, meeting everyone. It's a great time. I'm like, this is outdoor theater. This is such a huge space. I love it. Getting along with everybody. We're going through the motions, and we're starting up rehearsals for the show, the main show. And in this specific show, it is a war reenactment between colonists and Native Americans. And again, race plays a crucial part in this show.
Right.
Did they cast it appropriately? No! So they make do, and since then, there's been a movement to try and change that. There's been a, a petition made and sent out to those that have been a part of this theater company in the past. I've signed it to change this. Yeah. But what they do, shit you not, is there's a product of makeup in theater called Texas Dirt. And it is literally like a copper and reddish toned powder.
Already just the name of that. Texas
already
Dirt.
Already the name of it. And it's one of those where it's like, it's probably called Texas Dirt to emulate the look of dirt on somebody. Like, say you're in a Western and you gotta like look a little dirty.
Yeah, a little rugged.
Not me. I'm going to take myself out of that. I was not cast as this role. Those that were cast as the Native American tribe caked on this Texas Dirt and turned themselves red and brown and what have you. We all had a problem with it. Like, we all had an issue with it.
As you should, yeah.
Yeah, you'd think. And we brought it up, and we were like, we don't feel comfortable doing this. Why do we have to do this? And their excuse was just, well, for one, it makes it more historically accurate. I was like, I don't think so. And they said, and two, we check in with the tribes that still, like the people that still live around here,
right?
Of the original descendants of this tribe, and they've all mostly not had a problem with it. They all are like, well, I mean, you're portraying us and portraying this war, and we think the show is great, and it's in our favor, so yeah. And even then, I was like, really? I don't. Are we sure? Are we sure they're totally okay with it? And so they just did it. Those that were cast just did that, and then we got through it, and then the summer ended, and we all said, so we're not going to talk about this ever again? Cool. No, we're not going to bring it up?
Until today.
Until now. Well, the only reason I'm bringing it up is because, like, that was a thing.
No, yeah,
we're trying to work past it, and yes, that is a horrible thing to have been a part of.
Yeah.
As soon as I got cast I was cast as the villain of the show, the Colonel, who leads, no big deal. I just lead an army into the church and I kill the entire tribe. It's whatever. Let me tell you, that's another time. Anyway.
Yeah.
So like, as soon as I was cast as that character, I went, oh, thank God. I was literally like, I was having an inner turmoil. I was like, if I get cast as one of the Native Americans, I will quit. I will go home. Because I just can't. I was like, I will not.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I would say those are probably the two worst experiences that I've had of theater thus far. To end it on, or to wrap it up a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're cool with that.
Yeah.
So what would you say has been what is your favorite piece of theater? Like when you're like, oh, I love theater. What's the show that like comes to mind?
So when I think about just what theater means to me, like when I am feeling when I'm feeling weak in my choices of wanting what
I don't know why it sounded like you were about to go into a gospel song. Like,
when I'm feeling weak.
When I'm feeling weak and lonely. Yeah. When I'm feeling weak. Everybody. Yeah.
What is that from Hercules? When you so you wanna be a something
hero kid? Well, whoop-de-doo. When you're feeling down, when you're feeling out.
When I'm feeling down and out, and there seems no hope at all. But if you just believe, no way we can fall.
I think that's like specifically the vibe that I was getting.
When you're down and out, there seems no hope at all.
But if you just believe, there's no way.
Wow. Okay. Street lights. People.
Oh my God! Derailing. Anyway.
Speaking of Jim Carrey energy.
Speaking of Jim Carrey.
Okay.
Pardon me.
Okay.
All right.
When I'm feeling like down, when I am like questioning, like, what am I doing this for? This is one of the most cliche answers that anybody could ever give to this question. But it's something that's near and dear to me. I go back to Rent. That's what I go to. Rent was that was pretty much my, for other reasons, my awakening in theater. Like, it was my awakening as far as an artist goes. Because in community college, after doing a lot of conservative, not conservative, but coming from a conservative area, and wanting to learn about different people of different backgrounds and different experiences, in a intro to theater class I took, we watched Rent, the film. And that, in more ways than one, was like an eye-opening experience with both how diverse the world is, and with how diverse theater can be, because we had to keep everything kind of toned down in like a high school setting, obviously. But then whenever you're learning about, just putting it plainly, whenever you're learning more about people that are gay, and people that are trans, and people that are struggling racially from different things, and being able to put that into a theater experience where you're both learning about these different people, and you're also learning about really how deep theater can go, and like the music is amazing. The music is beautifully written for it. The characters, you gain attachment to these characters, and you actually really just get drawn into their experience and into their story. And just kind of being thrown into something so different from what I have experienced before, that was like what continued this uprising tick of, I want to do this. Like this, I love this world that this is. I love how diverse it is and continues to be as we are changing these things that were once seen as okay in the past. And just the togetherness that it can have, and just the friend group within that show itself, the togetherness of them. So that is something that I hold very dear to me, because that is what really continued to build on what my goals are, and what I set them to be at that moment in time. So Rent is something that it's a comfort musical, and that is something I'll always hold near and dear, and will hope to, if I can get my voice there, hopefully be in one day. I go to sleep wearing a sleeveless AC/DC shirt. Like I actually did this last night. Every time I sleep in that shirt and walk into my bathroom for my morning pee, I'll look in
Nice.
the mirror and be like, I really want to be Roger. Like I want to be Roger one day. Like yeah. So yeah, I think that would honestly be like a big full circle for me as well. Being able to be in that show at some point.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's my piece of theater that really just keeps me grounded, keeps me in it.
Hell yeah. I mean, I mentioned before that I love that Phantom's my favorite. It just like it holds a special place in my heart. I watched the movie when I was younger. It's just so beautiful and avant and just huge. But another one that I always think about when everyone's like, "What's your favorite piece of theater?" It's Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh,
It is so beautifully crafted. So like I think it's just a lot of things for me, the reason I love it. One, growing up in the Bible Belt, I have a complicated past with religion and Christianity and all this stuff, and it took me a while to figure out my own path with that and how I wanted to tackle religion. So like I'm very familiar with the Bible and the story of Jesus, and so to know that there is a rock musical version of that, I'm like, fuck yeah. Which is a strange complete sentence to say.
Yeah.
And to end it with fuck yeah. But like rock musical about Jesus, fuck yeah. That's the t-shirt I'm making. It tells it in such a beautiful way that not a lot of people have been able to capture like in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course, like the story has been, told in so many different ways. It's in so many different books. It's in so many different styles and blah, blah, blah. And just something about the way that this part of the story is portrayed in this rendition is so beautiful and heartbreaking and awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
That like Andrew Lloyd Webber really knocked it out of the park. So like I love that. I love the fact that it was basically just like a concept album. Like these people and Andrew just like got together and was like, what if we made an album, a rock album about the story of Jesus in his final days right before he is crucified. I'm just like, wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
And like, rock a lot of the times tries to pull on those like deep emotions. Well, sometimes sometimes it's just loud and angry.
Yeah.
But other times, they try to, music writing in general, it tries to pull from like deep emotion and deep character and setting. And I was like, yeah, that's what a plethora of character and story to pull from. And then them being able to take that and turn it into a show later on, a few years later, is like mind-boggling, and it's become one of the most successful pieces of theater ever. So there's that. The many directions you can take the show is incredible to me. It can be, even though it is set in Jerusalem and it is about Jesus and his disciples and Judas and all this stuff, you still can have fun with it because it's such an original piece and it's its own thing that you can veer off of the beaten path a little bit and create something new. Like there's a rendition of it where it's set. One of my favorite renditions is the 2012 arena tour of it, where it was like the anarchists and the public versus the corporate business world. You could do it like that. Some people, the original was set in Jerusalem, but just with rock music. The movie is from the 70s, the original movie. A bunch of a bunch of hippies driving in a bus, finding a spot in the desert, and just like deciding to perform this piece of Jesus Christ Superstar. It's it's just, it can be done in so many different creative ways that can stand. It helps it stand the test of time because as we grow and develop, we can start incorporating our newer ideas and methods into that production, and then it reflects on the modern time and blah blah blah, all that stuff. I think that's really cool. And then just would I love to be Jesus one day? Abso-fucking-lutely. Would I love to be Judas one day? Abso-fucking-lutely. I would need to work on that a lot, but like that's a goal of mine one day is to be one of those parts in that show. I've fortunately been in a production of it once. I was able to play Simon Zealot, saying that you get the power and the glory, and that's a monster of a song,
right?
And then right before the pandemic happened, I was gonna be in another production of it, and I was gonna be Simon again, but I was also gonna be King Herod, and we were working on it, and I was gonna play King Herod like Elton John, and it was gonna be really fun, and then it ended, and I was like, cool. I was like, awesome, great. But yes, it just something about it. Always, like, it's just such an enthralling musical, and it's so intense, and the score is great, the music's great, the lyrics, the melodies, and all this stuff. We even watched it for Easter, like last year over the pandemic. We all sat down and watched it together because a bunch of theater people being together over quarantine. But yeah, that one just holds a special place in my heart. Because it's just, I don't know. I just think it's wonderful. A rock opera.
Yeah, rock opera is like top tier. Like that's top tier musical right there. Yeah, and like that's a good pick. Like Jesus Christ Superstar is just so. I've seen most of it. I need to actually sit down beginning to end and see it all. And
brother, you say the word, I own it. We'll sit down. We'll watch it.
Let's do it. But no, all praise to you, because I remember whenever we graduated college, we have like this end of the year sort of showcase in a sense. There's awards and grants, scholarships, and performances by the outgoing seniors. And this man right here performed Gethsemane from Jesus Christ Superstar and fucking nailed it.
Thanks, buddy.
But no, man, you're gonna have that part one day. I truly believe that it's in you. You're gonna channel your Android Lloyd Webussi, and it's gonna happen.
I'm gonna put my whole Andrew Lloyd Webussi into that part, boy. And let me tell you, no, thanks, buddy. There's a specific year or couple of years that I was obsessed with that show, and I definitely have rehearsed that song many a time.
Oh yeah.
And like it's one of those perfect songs for me because I love belting, I love using my higher register, and it also has a lot of emotion and different like levels to it. And getting to do that for Senior Showcase was like a dream come true, for sure. It felt good. Yeah.
It's great.
But thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
For sure, man. That's what we do. We lift each other up.
We lift each other up. We got to. Lord knows.
I think we had a great conversation. I definitely learned a lot of things about you that I did not know before. I find it funny that both of our first, well, before mine changed, both of our first like school roles in school were first responders. That's something I've been keeping in my head. Like you were a cop and I was a firefighter.
Firefighter.
That's so funny.
Errands. What can we say?
What can we say?
We're we serve and protect.
Serve and protect this theater.
This theater. All right. Well then, yeah, we can talk about more on the next part. We're gonna do basically a part 2 of this, talking about the issues in the theater industry. You've heard a little bit about it today.
Yeah.
And that's just something that I think, especially like in the past few years, needs to be talked about more and brought up, because it just can't be swept under the rug anymore. Like, it's 2022. We got to fix these issues, and we're not going to do it by not talking about it. So we decided we're gonna let you into that a little bit on the part 2 whenever that'll happen. We have a guest that we're gonna bring on, our friend Courtney, talking about their experience in theater and also the issues that they've come across in theater. And we hope to have you listen to that, and you can join us in our fight to just make theater more inclusive and safer. And yeah, everything evolves, everything changes, and why would we not try to start within our own job industry?
Yeah, make it the best you absolutely can be, and make it that way for everybody. Like, don't
be the problem. Be the solution.
Don't be the problem. Perfect right there. Yeah, let us know down below. What are your favorite pieces of theater? Like, if you're involved in theater, like, what is your experience with that? Even if you're not involved with theater, there's something, if you've taken in any sort of art, whether it be just anything visual, like what is something that, or audio, anything like that, what has spoken to you, and what is maybe in a sense helped you in your field of what your focus is, whether that be theater or whether that be something outside. We'd love to hear it.
Also, if you have any questions about theater and a certain ways things happen, or questions about maybe shows that you've seen where you're like, okay, so curious incident of the dog in the nighttime. What does that mean?
Who's the dog and why is it night?
Who's the dog? Why does the Phantom have a white face? What is with the mask? If you have any questions like that, feel free. We totally answer them for you. But yeah. I guess that'll be it for us today. Tune in next time for the next episode of Double A's.
Batteries not included.
And we'll catch you on the next one.